typical German, stop, you want to organize the whole thing, you know. And I remember that arm with that walkie-talkie disappearing in that kirtan. He was just completely just pushed aside, just completely ignored, swept away. And we were just like, these things are getting really hot. There was, you know, guys with machine guns showing up or the galleries already, you know, and things like this. So we couldn't care less. If they would shoot us all, we couldn't care less. Because Prabhupada was here. And Prabhupada was just like majestically in the middle, walking towards the car. And then, you know, you have the main exit from the airport, which was relatively, those days, still small, and nowadays Frankfurt Airport is even more wide. It's one of the biggest airports in the whole world. But those days it was like you could go the corridor, and then you come to the main hall, and then you went to the exit. And at the exit, exactly where it's forbidden to stand and to park, and everything was already parked with white Mercedes, you know, ready for Prabhupada. With the stickers, I don't know how they did that. This was the big stickers like this, with the Vaishnava marks, with tilaks, like that, and they were just patched on a car. I don't know how they did that, the car was rented. So, you know, and then Prabhupada, and they immediately escorted him right to the car, you know, whereby, I mean, there must be at least 20 of security people going completely nuts how that car was blocking the whole, you know, exit of that airport. They always couldn't care less. And then Prabhupada got into the car, and we had an agreement with Acharya Prabhu, who was a driver. You know, he was a very skillful driver, so he drove that car. And we had an agreement that he drives especially slow, you know, because the temple was 45 kilometers away from the airport in the countryside. And so he drives very specially slow on that highway. So we could catch up with our Sankirtan cars. We had, I think, 12, 13 white Volkswagen buses parked in a next parking house, you know, yeah. And then the question was how to catch up, because it's Germany, you know. Germans like to have line up and parades and, you know, things like that, you know. So after all, Prabhupada was advertised on a big posters glued all over the place. Der Führer kommt. Means, you know, the real Führer is here. Completely hilarious idea, you know. It's a big black and white poster with Prabhupada's face, and underneath was Der Führer. Krishna. It was, even in ISKCON, where it was perceived as the most eccentric act, you know, which was ever done. Anyway, so, you know, so we all rushed towards our parked cars, which were on different levels on a parking house, which had an exit constructed in the form of a spiral. You drive like down like this, like parking houses have, you know. And I remember just racing towards that car, you know. And I remember 16 Volkswagen buses racing that spiral down with squeaking tires. And the system was that you drive down, and at the end there's a box with a, you know, sink like this. And those days they didn't have this automat and this kind of things. You had to pay manually. There was a man sitting in a box when you drive out, you know. But the man heard the squeaking, you know, from the spiral, you know, the 16 buses going down full speed. This is something you do when you drive a spiral down. You can lock the wheel and push the gas pedal just in a certain speed. You know, it just, the car, because it's the same angle, so the car stays like locked in the same speed. So we took the max, the tires were really squeaking, you know, and we were going down the spiral, and the man, he heard the 16 cars squeaking down that spiral, so he assumed, in his German way, that something very, very, you know, dramatic had happened, you know, because nobody drives up the parking house like this. So out of fear, he opened that thing, you know, and we all just dashed one car after another out of that parking lot, just heading for the highway, looking for the right Mercedes. And then we had a whole system. It was a typical German thing. Every car had flags. We took flags out of the window. It was late springtime. It was quite warm already. So every car had opened the windows, and there was the flags coming out, you know, with all colorful flags on the cars. And that Mercedes drove especially slowly, so we could just catch up with him. So suddenly Prabhupada had behind the 16 cars lined up, with lights on blinking and with flags and this, and must have been really sight, in a back mirror to see this. Somehow Prabhupada decided, normally he didn't do that. He was sitting usually in a back seat with his can, he has this walking can, and he was sitting in a back seat usually like that. But somehow on that day he decided to sit in a front seat, or they put him there, I don't know, and he decided to sit like in a yogi posture. Prabhupada was relatively, had a small figure, but still, the problem was that his knees were sticking into the manual shifting gearbox, his knee. So this Chaitya told me later this driver, he told me it was a horrifying thing to put in the 4th and 5th gear, because I always touched Prabhupada's knee with the sink when I put the gear in. And Prabhupada always looked at me very seriously like that. And I was just sweating. I was going, Prabhupada, I have to put the gear in. So, I was in panic. And then that was the whole system. So we had a whole kirtan going on the highway. It was going on like for half an hour. And then there was an exit. And there was no mobile phones those days. So there was no communication possible. But somehow they managed to have it timed that on the exit was parked a big Mercedes van, which was actually serving for festivals, carrying a big amplification on the roof. So, so that Mercedes van was timed in such a way that when he saw a long distance our cars approaching, he started to drive immediately down the exit. And he got a distance approximately of 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers ahead of us. And they were full blast playing Prabhupada's bhajan from the amplification of that car. And we had to drive approximately through 3-4 villages before we reached the area where we had our castle. Schloss Etterswald was a castle on a hill, which was not owned by us, it was rented by us, but that was a real thing. We even rented the castle, but below the castle was stables with horses, where all this kind of puffed up, German. The whole area was actually very kind of privileged area with very rich people living there. And somehow in the middle of the whole thing was the castle with the devotees. So that was a little bit creating conflicts, in between. But on that day, miraculously, everything was fine. First came this Mercedes van with this heavy amplification. The result was that actually all the people went into the windows looking what was happening in all the villages we passed through. On top of that, a few days before was some kind of German holiday, and they had all the flags and decorations somehow in the windows still. So it looked like a little festival, And they were just, so first came this Mercedes and with the amplification, all the people went and were looking out of the windows, And a few minutes later arrived Prabhupada's Mercedes, with 16 Volkswagen vans behind with flags and everything. So of course people were attracted, And some of them even started to wave from the windows. Even Hare Krishna was not exactly the most popular thing in that area. But they thought this was something very special going on. And Prabhupada sitting like this in his yogi seat in front of that Mercedes, he saw all this celebration. It was people in the windows waving. And Prabhupada was with the beadback and he was going, with the beadback, eating them, It was all like suddenly everything took another dimension. And finally, passing through these 2-3 villages, we arrived at the turn into the forest, and there was a small area. There was actually another one of these things, in front of the stables, where the horses were, and where people used to exercise, all these kind of stiff, rich people on the horses. And amazingly, there was a man in the box who was operating this thing, who knew devotees, of course. But he also, when he saw devotees, he was just standing there, he was like, completely like, he was standing like in the army, and Prabhupada was again back, greeting him. Then we came into the area where there was these horse stables, and there was this ground where people exercise on horses, There was a whole bunch of horses standing in a row, like in a parade, next to each other with the riders on it. I was like, wow, never saw anything like this before. It was another, like a regiment, of horses greeting Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was again with the feedback. And then we drove like a little piece, the road was going like this and ended up on a hill on the castle. So then, we parked the cars, there was a big parking lot, and then Prabhupada was welcomed in his room, which was so freshly painted. I painted the shower. It was still, the color was wet on the wall. It was a heavy oil color. Must have been still wet, didn't dry. Prabhupada was, accommodated in his room, and then prasadam was brought to him in a typical German way. I think the plate was double the size of this table. It was like 108 preparations, like this. We had very expert cooks around that time. So they, and I remember Prabhupada, the plate was presenting, it was big like this, And Prabhupada looked at the prasadam, and then he just reached out and he put a finger into one cup with honey, with this dark forest blue honey. And he was going, very good. And that was it, that was the whole meal. The rest was just, he didn't touch anything, just the honey, And they were just carrying it out. The prasadam, that was another story during his presence, that was really heavy. Because the very time when that plate came out of the room, it was heavily attacked by approximately 120 brahmacharis. There was visitors too, also from all the yatras, who were fiercely just fighting over the Prabhupada. Completely disconcerted that actually all this happened in front of his door. Which was soundproof. I remember the door, it was an ordinary door, but the wood is nailed on it, made from artificial leather, it's kind of cushion, It was like, to make it more soundproof, so Prabhupada is no peace. Because it was in a main hall, the castle was designed like, you come in a big hall, and then you go up the big stairs, and up there was a balcony, and from that balcony you could access different rooms. So one of the rooms was Prabhupada. So it was specially kind of made sound, tight. Still, it was very difficult, because it came that far that the servants were not willing anymore to bring that plate with the Mahamaha from Srila Prabhupada out of the tomb. Because there was 100 brahmacharis in front of the door who were very unpolite, very unkind, and total fanatics. And you have to understand, it was the oldest member in that crew was maybe 22 years old. So we were all mad, passionate, So they were just, before they even start to distribute this, the plates start to rotate around, and he grabbed this and he grabbed that, and it upgraded day by day. We knew exactly when the plate comes out of the door. So, and it created gangs, that I remember once, it became a little bit like, I don't know if you know the English rugby game, something of that, like a pile of brahmacharis with prasadam flying here and there, I remember once my friend Lee Sutra just, he was a very skinny boy, but he was in the middle of the whole thing, and he just, there was a piece of balloon coming flying out of that pile of devotees, so I grabbed that, and I ate the balloon, including the green, thing, everything. And you had to eat very fast, because if they catch you, and you were lying on the floor, they managed even to squeeze the Mahamaha out of your mouth and take a bit anyway. They were just like this. So you have to use any tricks and this and swallow really fast. So because I was local, I knew the place, so I knew how to run and where to hide, just to be very, very quickly. And it was hilarious. When I remember, it was mad. The devotees were just chasing each other. So the whole building for bits of prasadam from Prabhupada. And then, it was madness. And I remember the day where actually it had to stop somewhat. I remember the day where it was so fierce, that fight and that noise, from that thing. Prabhupada, of course, must have heard it. So he just opened the door. And in front of his door there was this big pile of brahmacharis, And he must have stood there for quite a while because nobody noticed. Everybody was so focused to get his bit, of this prasadam. So suddenly somebody was screaming, "Prabhupada ki jai!" And then everybody stopped. And then there was a Prabhupada standing just that close to us in the door. We were all lying on top of each other, One had still a balloon in the hand, another one had something else in the hand, And Prabhupada was just standing there and he looked at this mess, And he just smiled and he was going, right? And then he slowly closed the door again. I think from that day it was like more civilized, it was more distributed in a more civilized way. But we were young, we were just completely, totally enthusiastic. So I could go on a walk with Prabhupada several times, but I was relatively a new bhakta. I was just 2 years in Krishna consciousness, or 1.5 years when Prabhupada arrived, which was a good thing because I didn't get initiated before. I was in Sankirtan for 1.5 years, so I could get initiated directly by him at that occasion in that temple. And nothing was for real when Prabhupada was here. It was everything went out of control, We couldn't even go out and distribute books really because it was just everybody was fighting for any second to be close to him. We arranged programs for him, one program in a close-by town with a huge propaganda. Hardly anybody came. It was just 2 rows of people full, mostly parents and devotees. And Prabhupada gave a whole lecture and there was a kirtan on the stage. It was a big hall. And I remember there was only one question after the lecture. Do you know Guru Maharaji? Prabhupada said, who? No. And that was it, But they were a bit depressed, about how little feedback was there from the public. Prabhupada was not depressed at all. He said, no. He said, we had our program. Devotees were happy. That was really important to him. The devotees are happy. The morning walks were every movement of Prabhupada, every minute spending with him was full of instruction, more or less. You always learned something. Prabhupada went even so far in the morning, he went to the neighboring village. And then, and devotees told me, I wasn't on that walk, but they told me, you know what happened? Prabhupada passed early in the morning, it's an empty village, everybody's still sleeping more or less, And somebody, it was, early morning and it was warm already. So somebody left in a garden, a water tub, you water the grass. Somebody left it was dripping. So Prabhupada suddenly went into the private property, and turned the water tap. And he said, they are wasting water. And he just kept on walking. He was such a concern about such a details. So I remember only this one incident when we stopped on a field, on a pathway between 2 grain fields, and we stopped. And there was some rain the day before, and then there was a dead mouse lying on the road. Prabhupada stopped with his stick and pointed with the stick to the mouse, and he said, Mrityuloka, place of death. Everybody dies. Then he kept on walking. So it was like, otherwise the lectures were very spectacular because the very lectures normally ended up with the same thing. Take prasadam, distribute my books, chant Hare Krishna, and be happy, be happy. Thank you very much. So he took it like a mantra almost. He just took it like a sutra. Take prasadam, chant Hare Krishna, distribute my books and be happy. Thank you very much. That was for us like the guideline. And I don't, the more I remember the initiation, of course, that was really, that I remember minute by minute. It's a matter of that, the more I remember, I can even smell the grass. It was the, outside, outdoor. It was Anyway, I wrote this whole thing down in, somewhere on storyteller. Because I told this story so many times. So of course personal association is there, but ultimately what prevails is just serving Srila Prabhupada's purpose. Prabhupada had a purpose to appear. He had a mission to fulfill. And to be part of that makes us, gives our lives some value. Otherwise we are just spending our lives with useless hopes. Hope against hope. Which most of them will be frustrated by the material energy. And at the end, just leave the body. We ate something, we slept, we evacuated, we produced ourselves a little bit, and then we died. Just one lifetime, amongst millions of other lifetimes. That's usually how people live in this world. Just coming alive, trying to do something, becoming frustrated and dying again. That's generally how it works. Quite useless. Wasted. Wasted life. Even you may think, I achieved this for my children or for those who come after me, or I did some creation. How do you know what they will do with that? And how do we know they will be even able to do something with that? It's all completely out of our hands. Prabhupada gives an example of a man who, he personally saw a man begging the doctor, please, help me, make me at least 2 years more to survive. I don't mind to die, but at least 2 years more so I can achieve my goal. Prabhupada said, for what? Prabhupada knew what he was talking about, because he was also a hard-working man. He knew what it means to work hard for the family. And when he arrived in Vrindavan finally, took sannyas, there's a poems, he wrote it in one poem. I served for these people my whole life. What did they do for me? For me meant in Prabhupada context, for my spiritual plans and desires. What did they do really? Nothing. We find even amongst devotees, very exceptional, but we find grihasthas where even the wives are very supportive to the cause of the husband, to actually preach and spread Krishna consciousness and serve Krishna. That's quite rare. It's quite amazing. Because otherwise everybody in this world works only for his own benefit. And benefit what? It will be all taken out, taken away. And nothing comes for free. Everything you have to work hard for. And even those people who inherit money and who have suddenly lots of money or who are born into money, what? What do they have out of that? Just fear to lose it. Even Mr. Oscar Wilde said, whatever is based on money only is very cheap. Because it's what money, what substance. In India especially, rupee, rupee, rupee. Just to look at the currency, it's enough. It's a ripped, old, dirty piece of paper, stacked together, from a Western point of view, untouchable, Here at least the money is, even the Danish 20 krone was designed as the dirtiest money bill in the whole world. Scientifically confirmed. Yes. But all money is just a piece of paper which was touched by many people. In India you can see it wasn't even touched, it was probably rolled over by a truck or I don't know what. Because this rupee, they have this stacker, it comes like a brake. And they go and they pull this piece of iron out of it, and then they count, it got holes in it and it's torn apart. You think, that's money? It looks already cheap. But then everybody, rupee, rupee, rupee. Sometimes I saw in India, they even, they even roll the rupee like this and they go, like this. There's no value in this. Rupee, 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 rupee. And then what? What rupee? Tomorrow it's something else. It's just a paper which can be de-evaluated in 1 second. Suddenly 1,000 rupees is 1 rupee. Sorry. But I saved 1,000 rupees. No, we have only 1 rupee. They do it regularly. And then dollar, dollar, dollar. I notice even the money gets uglier. The dollar is more like what? Looks like made on a photocopy machine. And the euro, they used to have faces on this money. People, persons, kings, important personalities. Now it's just a bridge. Some bridge, which looks boring, just a bridge. And that's the money. I mean, it's not even a nice piece of paper. It's a meaningless. It's just a piece of paper. In America, they printed on "In God we trust." It's printed on the money. Prabhupada said, yeah, that they print on the dollar. They should print "In dollar we trust," not "In God we trust." What a cheating! What a hypocrisy! They write "In God we trust." My dollar, If you trust in God, and Prabhupada said originally it was a fact, for this dollar you could get that much gold. Anytime you could go to the bank and change this dollar into this amount of gold. Now, you change it into nothing, it's paper. When they don't have money, they print more. It's a completely illusory substance. Anything you touch, it's of such a temporary, flicker in nature. So to associate with Srila Prabhupada, you got the idea of a real value system. What is really valuable in life? What is really valuable thing? And that's the association with pure devotee. And that's the spiritual, you could say, feeling, which results in spiritual action. That's the real thing that remains from all that struggle. Because that's a permanent investment. So Prabhupada opened the real bank where you can invest forever. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.